Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 189th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Ki Tetze. Tetze speaks about the wayward son, speaks about a male wearing female garb and vice versa. Talks also about sending away the mother bird, sending away the mother bird and taking the eggs. Talks about adultery, restricted marriages, a lot of interesting topics. So the Torah here tells me, chapter 23, verse 3. We talk about forbidden marriages. It says, the mamzer shall not enter the congregation of Hashem, even his 10th generation, shall not enter the congregation of Hashem. So, what is a mamzer? A mamzer, people translate it as a bastard child, right? But it's not exactly that. It means a child that comes from a union that's really a forbidden union. In other words, two people are together, they're not allowed to be together, and essentially they have a child. They have a child, and that child is a mamzer. Now, or it's called the mamzer. Now, that child has a certain blemish on his soul, because again, you had two people that weren't allowed to be together. So the end result, they have this child, and when that child grows up, wants to get married, since it's got a blemished soul, can only marry a convert or someone who came from the same union. So that being said, there are a number of questions here. One is, why does the child suffer here? It's not the child's fault. Child's conceived, child is born, a lot of time in between, but the child is born, and that's it. So it shouldn't be a punishment for the child. And the second question is, why is the child only allowed to marry either someone in the same union or a convert? Because people are going to say a convert's a Jew. Right? If a convert's a Jew, what are we, second-class citizens? This person's blemished. Right? This child, this soul, right, is blemished in this body. So why is it only by a convert? Or someone of the same sex, someone of the same union. So let's deal with the first question. First question is the problem of the child itself. Now, is it the child's fault? Reality is not the child's fault. What does the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos say? It says in Ethics of Our Fathers that what? You're born against the will, you die against your will. Parentheses, you still have to live. Right? But if you're born against your will, you don't have a say who your parents are. You don't have a say who your siblings are. You don't have a say in anything. You're conceived, the soul goes in, and that's it. So the reality is, as we mentioned many times, there are repercussions for our actions. There are spiritual repercussions, physical repercussions. Physical repercussions I can understand easier. What's that? And that is, a woman who's pregnant, if she smokes crack, her kid can come out deformed. Is it the child's fault? Not the child's fault. Right? There are repercussions for their actions. Now, if a child comes out, mentally challenged or whatever from this, they have to understand it's not a punishment for the child. Why? Child's not liable. Child can only be liable after the age of bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, let's say 12, 13, in a day up to the age of 20. Right? By the age of 20, really, a person is really liable. So if the person's born and the child is born in a messed up body, whether the mother smoked crack or some other thing, whatever it is, so it's not the child's fault. The soul itself has to go in the body. Right? The soul itself's being punished for what it did in a previous life. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense. Why some people born like this, born like that, some are normal, some aren't. A lot of issues. But it can't be punishment for the child. Because the child's not punishable right now. Right? It's not of age. How do I know? Because the child can only be punished. Well, child can only be punished, after the age of bar mitzvah. Right? That's when punishment comes in. Now, if a child breaks a window, or does something wrong, steals, let's say, really, the parent's definitely liable. Right? But the child technically is exempt. But obviously they have to own up to responsibility. Someone's going to have to pay it. But the child really is exempt. According to the letter of the law, they're exempt. Could be, though, there's an obligation on the parents, lifting mishuras the din beyond the letter of the law. It's incumbent really on the parents to pay, even though the child's exempt. So, if a child's born in a messed up body, it's not the child's fault. But it's repercussions for what the soul did in a previous life. Because if you don't come on to reincarnation, why is someone born in a messed up body? Right? It doesn't make sense. Logically, if God's in control of everything, right? God can make someone healthy, can make someone sick, per se, but this is the very beginning. Right? So therefore, there has to be something else going on. Because otherwise then you say, well, the system of the world is not fair. It doesn't make sense why this should be. But again, why does suffering happen? It happens either because certainly what we do, and it can happen because what our soul did. Right? Most people's souls today, it's not the first time it's in this world. Probably the last time it's going to be in this world. To fix up whatever it's supposed to do. But it could be that a soul, in order to get fixed up, has to be in a messed up body. So there are repercussions for our actions. Those are physical repercussions. Now, what about spiritual repercussions? So, what's the example I always give by spiritual repercussions? And that is by the mamzer. So the mamzer, again, is a union, a forbidden union, where the child can only marry someone of the same union or a convert. Now, what's going on over here? The union was forbidden. These two people not allowed to be together. But they hook up together, she gets pregnant, she gives birth. Now again, is it the child's fault over here? Not the child's fault. Right? But there's a reality. Just like there's a physical reality, there's a spiritual reality. So, we understand a mamzer is blemished. The soul of a mamzer is blemished. Why? Because again, it came from a forbidden union. If it came from a forbidden union, who is this person allowed to marry? Now, we can't say he can marry a normal Jew. Why not? Why should a normal Jew be blemished? Right? We'll see the story of a convert in a second. But a normal Jew should marry this person. It's forbidden for them to marry this person. Why? Because it brings down his pedigree. It brings down his great genealogy. That's what it does. Because the soul's on Mount Sinai. He's a Jew. Proper Jew. Why should he marry someone like that? His soul isn't blemished. This soul is blemished. Come along, rabbis, and say, okay, a regular Jew is not going to want to marry such a person. And it's forbidden. Why in the world should you take, a person who's got a normal soul and put it together with someone who's messed up? So, pedigree is important. So now you're going to ask, what about a convert? Isn't a convert a Jew, quote unquote a normal Jew. So technically they are. But you have to remember, a convert doesn't have the same pedigree as a Jew. A convert, as everybody knows, right? If you don't know, you'll know now. A convert is a non-Jew that converts to Judaism. And they want to come under Kanfei Shechina, the wings of God. They want to be part of the Jewish people. Now, before they're part of the Jewish people, they weren't Jewish. And if they're not Jewish, they're the same obligations as a Jew. A non-Jew can certainly have a portion of the world to come, as long as they keep the Noahide laws. No problem. But they don't have the same status as a Jew. They have less mitzvahs. Many, many less mitzvahs. But again, a righteous Gentile has a portion of the world to come. Now that being said, this soul, this mamzer, his soul was messed up. His soul is blemished. Now, this convert, before they convert, they're also blemished as a non-Jew. Because most non-Jews don't keep the Noahide laws, be wiped off the face of the map. But you're going to say this non-Jew is different. This non-Jew came under God's wings. Gave up everything. Idolatry, shrimp. You name it, they gave it up. To be part of God's chosen people. So if they're a full-fledged Jew, why don't they have the status of everybody else that's not allowed to marry this convert? Sorry, not allowed to marry this mamzer. So very simple, and that is, they don't have the same level of pedigree. The pedigree of a convert is not the same. Doesn't mean they can't reach high spiritual levels. You know, we're not saying that. But we're saying, where do they come from? They come from a non-Jewish nation. If they come from the non-Jewish nation, what's their status? They're non-Jews. But once they convert, and they get that extra part of the soul, they become part of the Jewish people, there is still certain limitations. One is, a woman can't marry a Kohen. Right? Someone who converted can't marry a Kohen. She's a Jew. Full-fledged Jew. But there are certain people a Kohen can't marry. And we're not living in Victorian England over here. Even a Jew. Right? By certain Jewish women. If they've been promiscuous. If they're not, if they haven't kept Torah mitzvahs, most likely they've been promiscuous. Again, we're not living in Victorian England. So they can't marry Kohen either. So some people will say that's offensive. How dare you say that, etc. Most women today, I think it's very high statistic. Certainly before they're married, they've been with somebody else. We'll make it easy, we'll keep it clean. They've been with a man. So, if a Jewish woman is with somebody she's not allowed to be with, she can't be with a Kohen. Forbidden for her to be with a Kohen. A non-Jewish woman, same thing. Now, where there should be laws of modesty and all that, a non-Jewish woman cannot say, and I'll say it by a Jewish woman also, no difference. Without the guidance of Torah mitzvah, she's been around. I'm not going to say how much. We're not going to go into the gory details. But a woman's been around. If she's been around, she can't marry a Kohen. A Jew or a non-Jew. We're not making a distinction here. But the point is, a non-Jew is also blemished to a certain extent. You tell me, a non-Jew that converts, kekatan shenolad dami, they're like a newborn child. True. It's like everything they did before that gets wiped off the face of the map. True. But you can't take away what she's done. In other words, she's not a virgin, you can't take that away. We don't say, okay, she's not a virgin, and now she is. Now we go back and say she is, but it's not true. Because anyone who's going to be with her is going to know. 100% they're going to know. So therefore, a mamzer over here can marry someone of a similar union, or a convert. Because the convert does not have that pedigree. Someone's going to say, you know what? Don't you always say there's souls at Mount Sinai? There's souls at Mount Sinai. And that's how they wanted to become Jewish. Because it doesn't make logical sense. But their soul got messed up, intermarried, at some point, becomes non-Jewish. So now they have to go through conversion. So that being the case, a non-Jew does not have the pedigree. This convert does not have the pedigree. And if they don't have the pedigree, then they're allowed to marry the mamzer. Or someone from a similar union. Because again, we don't want to take someone whose soul is relatively pure and mess it up. And mess it up in this case. So if you have someone from a similar case, similar union, so messed up along the way, okay? We'll allow them to marry each other. And the converts, even if they're considered like a katan shenolad, they're considered like a newborn baby, you can't take away what they've done. Now I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate mail. People say, I saved myself from my husband when I got married. There'll be people out there, that haven't been around, so to speak. So for those, we'll say, fine, you got a good claim. But the vast majority of people, women in general, guys no different, before they get married to multiple partners. That's the reality. Some more, some less. This starts at a very young age, unfortunately. Modesty and whatever, and marriage and whatever, not the topic for now. And the Jewish way in love and marriage. Spoken about it in other videos on YouTube. So anyway, when I grew up, it was bad. Way back when. Today, it's not any better, it's not worse. No question. And people who experimenting at a very young age, not only that, but they're being exposed. How do you know you like someone of the opposite sex? Maybe you really like someone of the same sex. They put these ideas, these foreign ideas, at least according to the Torah, put in the ideas of kids. Johnny, maybe you like to dress up as a girl. Or, Jeannie, maybe you like to dress like a boy, or whatever. Doesn't the Torah over here say, this week's Parsha, a woman can't dress like a man, vice versa. No transvestites. So that's forbidden. But this movement is very, very strong. Very, very powerful. God forbid shouldn't teach it in the schools. You gotta leave, you have to have kids have their minds open till the brains fall on the floor. That's the normalcy today. Books like Johnny Has Two Fathers. I mean, the institution of marriage, like I said, I'm not going to speak about it, but it's a dying thing. It doesn't work. Certainly in the secular world, more than 60% divorce rate, if not higher. Doesn't make sense to get married. Victor Miller, blessed memory, would say, how do you kill a great romance? Get married. Because the more people that live together, if they get married, the percentage of divorce is even higher, like 70%, 75%. First they're living together, who knows, years. Finally decide to get married. What changed? The only thing that changed was a piece of paper. The only thing that changed was more responsibility now. Not as easy again, just walk out. It's a lot more complicated. But still, it'd be better to live together, because if you get married after living together, it's a disaster. So the institution of marriage, it doesn't make sense why people should get married today. I mean, obviously, according to Torah, you need to be married and all that, true. That's a whole different thing. But when the Torah is teaching, when the secular world is teaching you perverted things that, according to them, is today's norm, can't sit around and be silent. For sure. So that's the reality. And again, if you want to tell me there are individuals, certainly not the majority, not even close. You want to tell me certain individuals wait till they're married? Okay. So then I'm not talking about all 5 of them in the world. Right? You'll tell me there are people that still have morals. Maybe. It's not a lot of people, though. It's a lot of peer pressure in the world. Especially in that area. It's unfortunate. But somebody like that will never be able to marry a Kohen. No matter how righteous they are. And someone, even if they convert, so they're still blemished from where they came from. Doesn't mean they don't get the extra part of the soul. Doesn't mean they can't raise themselves to high spiritual levels. What we're speaking about over here is a reality. And the reality is conversion doesn't change everything. Changes a lot, no question. And the way a person can grow is unbelievable. I see many great people that are converts. Raise themselves to high spiritual levels. But they had a previous life. Some people grew up more sheltered, all the power to them. Even better. But see, the Torah is speaking our language. The Torah is telling you, as the rabbis explain, we know the reality. And the reality is, this is the only thing that makes sense. Either someone of the same union, right, or a convert. Because at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you know who you are. You know where you came from. And this isn't a knock against non-Jews. This is a knock against everybody in the world. In the secular world. It's a moral abyss. What do I call it? An abyss? Because morality's gone out the window. Totally out the window. You see it in billboards. You see it in movies. You've seen all kinds of things. So there's no wonder that these things are taught at a very young age. And it's horrific. Why in the world are you putting ideas in kids' heads? Twisted ideas. Say, twisted according to you. Twisted according to what you call the Torah, what the Bible. The Bible's old-fashioned. The Bible this, okay? Bottom line, do you believe it's true or not? If you don't believe the Torah is true, okay. We can have an argument. We can discuss it. But at the end of the day is what goes on in that world, in the secular world. Is it a benefit or is it a detraction? So I'm going to tell you in this aspect, many other aspects as well. But in this aspect, for sure, it's a detraction. Studies have been done that when boys and girls are put together in school, they don't do as well scholastically. Makes sense. Boys attracted to girls, girls to boys. Right? A lot of other things going on. Hormones going crazy. Makes sense. Why concentrate on my studies? Be the best I can be. Can have some fun also. But the whole idea over here, remember, we're talking about a forbidden union. Two people, but it's forbidden for them to be together. If it's forbidden for them to be together, there are repercussions. Just like there are repercussions for everything we do. Whether spiritually or physically, or both. So now in this case, especially people returning to Judaism today, they can be born out of wedlock. That could create the situation. Right? Doesn't mean every case out of wedlock. There's specific cases where two people, man and woman, are allowed to be together. And the reality is the child suffers. Because what happens is child years later, starts looking at religion, wants to become an Orthodox Jew. Starts learning, whatever. And it's not so uncommon that a person finds themselves in this situation. And it can be tragic. What if a person's already married? What if they're already married to someone, not in the same union? Or a convert? Right? They should have to divorce. Divorce. You have kids. It's complicated. There are stories of people that were adopted. Right? The parents adopted, a baby. They didn't care, Jewish, not Jewish. They raised them as Jews. So what happens? Someone becomes religious, then they find out they're a non-Jew. Because raising someone as a Jew is not the same thing, or the mother wasn't Jewish. If the mother's Jewish, one thing. If the mother wasn't Jewish, it's complicated. Not so complicated. They have to go through conversion. That's what they have to do. It can certainly be disconcerting for people, thinking their whole lives they're Jews, and now they're given a choice. They find out the birth mother is not Jewish. So now they have a choice. They don't have to be Jewish. They can opt out. But if they're already holding by Torah mitzvahs, most likely they're not going to opt out. There are cases people have. Even if they were learning. They were religious, whatever, they find out. There are stories of, people left the fold and now don't want it. Rather be a non-Jew. Rather live the life of Riley. This is too hard a life. Could be. Very well could be. But you see, there's nothing in this world that goes unanswered for. We may not always see it. But there are certain things, the repercussions, okay, now we have to see what we can do. Is there a way around it? Is there some, possibility that a person from a union will be able to marry someone, a regular Jew? pretty serious thing. You know, people think, oh, the Torah is make-believe, this, that. This causes a lot of problems. A lot of problems. If people were on the up and up, they kept Torah mitzvahs, you wouldn't have this issue. You wouldn't have many other issues. So we have to understand, we are our own worst enemy. 90% of world Jewry doesn't know anything about Judaism. So you're going to say, are they to blame? Well, really, the Orthodox are the ones to blame. All Jews are interrelated. Kol Yisrael Ravim Zeh Lezeh. We're all interrelated. So one Jew does something wrong, the entire nation can be punished. These people don't know anything, they're going to pay a price. They'll just pay a lesser price because they're ignorant. But depends what they do. They could pay a very severe price. They could forfeit their portion of the world to come. You know, even going against Kaufman's 614th commandment, don't be stupid. They could still be punished. Not going to be punished as severely. Depends what it is. But there are many things they can be punished severely. And not knowing doesn't matter. Definitely could forfeit their place in the world to come. So life is complicated. In general. What does the Torah tell me? By second paragraph of the Shema, we do the right thing. Everything's good. Water, food, everything our needs taken care of. We do the wrong thing. Famine, punishment, pogroms. It goes one way or the other. Can't be neutral like Switzerland. There is no middle ground. There is no idea of being mediocre. The Torah stands for truth. Absolute truth. When you mess around with it, you get a hodgepodge. People take out this, they take out that. This doesn't make sense. Where do you see in the Torah I can pick and choose? This I like, this I don't like. See, but it's not even about that. What it's about is now I'm in a pickle. I'm in a predicament because now I got this situation. Now I've been put in this situation. But you're going to say it's not my fault. Okay. Right? It's a forbidden union. So you won't be held accountable for that. Wasn't your choice. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, there are repercussions. At the end of the day, this can be the end result. You don't like it, you don't have to like it. It's about truth. When there's truth, absolute truth, there are going to be consequences, and those consequences may be absolutely severe. I want to remind everyone I have a class on duties of the heart every Tuesday, 9 o'clock New York time. I have a class on the book of Leviticus every Sunday, 9 o'clock New York time. I have 2 Q&As, Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock in the morning New York time, 5 o'clock Israel time. I do Tanakh Talk every Monday. Monday it's 9 o'clock Israel time, 2 o'clock Eastern time. And I also give conversion classes twice a week. Anyone interested in any of these, find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion and Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.